The voices of Singaporeans have been heard. The fourth-generation leadership, led by Deputy Prime Minister Lawrence Wong, is taking feedback from the Forward Singapore engagements and turning them into action. Now, it's shifting key policy areas to shape this future that Singaporeans want.
This is not a top-down government agenda. Rather, it is very much a shared consensus among Singaporeans across different walks of life. It reflects our collective aspirations and our shared vision for the future. Besides knowing what we want for the future, we also need to figure out how do we translate our aspirations into reality.
The approach to education will go beyond paper qualifications and redefine what merit and success mean. It will also take the perception of what makes a good career beyond white-collar jobs to more fairly recognise and reward skills and mastery. And there'll be more focus on helping the elderly stay active and social, and a shift in how we embrace medical advances and technology. Plus, further support for families to own their homes, take care of their children, and maintain a work-life balance. And last but not least, more ways to assist and empower vulnerable groups like lower-income families and persons with disabilities.
First, a closer look at what this means for the education sector. Mature Singaporeans looking to upskill will get training allowances as part of a boost to the Skills Future scheme. This is to spur more to continue learning even after their years in the classroom and help them land more meaningful jobs. Alif Amshar with this report.
Mr. Saiful Azli Ghazali knows the ins and outs of commercial planes. After all, he spent more than 2 decades at SD Engineering, where he started off as an apprentice. Now, he's a trainer for other technicians after going for over 40 courses to pick up new skills.
Back then, I need just only academic knowledge, but now I think lifelong learning is very important to transform us into a fourth industrial revolution society. So I believe that with all this skill that we amass and with all the knowledge that we gain, it is important for even the older ones to keep up with the times.
It's this yearning to continue learning and upskill that Education Minister Chan Chun Sing hopes to see more of. Besides providing funding for those who want to obtain a second diploma, the government will also take steps to broaden the definition of merit.
We must continue to have a diversity of pathways and the porosity of pathways for people to realize their potential at different stages of life. We must also be able to mass customize our learning according to the abilities and interests of our learners. And increasingly in this mass customization, we will have to embrace technology that allows our people to adapt their learning styles and learning speed according to their needs.
When it comes to Singapore's workforce, the government wants to give more people the opportunity to develop a range of skills. And this is so they can stay employable and relevant. For example, it wants to help more ITE graduates upskill and upgrade early by better recognizing the efforts for doing so and defraying the costs of their studies.
There'll also be a new scheme to help those involuntarily unemployed bounce back. For one, it could provide them financial support. But this hinges on whether they play their part to actively job hunt. Targeted assistance is also on the cards for those in the lower and middle income groups.
We will ensure that our seniors can enjoy a financially secure retirement while they stay active and healthy. All Singaporeans can be assured that as long as they work and they contribute to the CPF consistently, they will be able to meet their basic retirement needs through CPF payouts after they retire. And for those who do not have the ability to work, we will explore and find other ways as part of our social compact to look after their retirement needs.
The government is also looking to invest more in Singaporeans. That's so more in this small city-state can dream big and become global leaders in their respective fields.
More parental leave for new fathers and better flexible work arrangements may be on the cards. The 4G leadership is looking at more ways to help Singaporeans navigate the intricacies of parenthood and balance work and family life. It's part of the Forward SG roadmap to support families through every stage of their lives. Here's Alif Amshar again with more.
In one of the fastest aging countries on the planet, with the lowest birth rate in its history, the pressure is building to keep the population thriving. To ease that pressure, the government is taking further steps to help families. The first key shift, making sure new dads get to stay home more in the early months.
All the evidence shows that children grow up much more emotionally secure, better adjusted, and do much better in life when the fathers are involved at an early stage. It's going to need mindset changes. It's going to need work arrangement changes. It's going to need employers on board as well.
The government is studying how paid parental leave can be further increased in a way that balances parents' needs and the impact on businesses. But Ms. Indrani says society must also play a part to make it happen.
If somebody who would like to be a mother today undergoing fertility treatment takes time off, employer may understand that. But if the husband asks for time off to be with the wife who is having fertility treatment, the initial reaction is probably, how come? So the shift will be when the employer's immediate reaction is, of course, you must go and support your wife, and not, how come you have to go? And that kind of shift you cannot legislate.
One human resource manager says having such flexible work arrangements doesn't just boost morale, it also helps with productivity. She says her construction company's efforts are already bearing fruit.
What we do offer is to provide flexi start and end times for employees so that they can choose when to start and end their work days in order to accommodate their schedules around their children or their family. We also offer hybrid work arrangements where our employees can choose to work from home 1 day per week.
And helping young Singapore families also means doing more to ensure HDB flats remain affordable. The ministry says the government is already working hard to speed up the housing construction schedule. It also recently reclassified HDB flats to moderate demand and make them more accessible.
Singapore is setting the stage for a new national program called Age Well SG to help its older generation do just that, live and age well. It's part of efforts to empower senior citizens to live active and social lives and prevent them from being isolated.
And this is specifically targeted at the well-being of seniors to battle against their biggest enemy, which is social isolation. That determines their well-being in a very profound way.
The goal is to make sure that 8 in 10 seniors have access to activities near their homes by 2025. Or that will be achieved through expanding the network of active aging centres and offering more housing options integrated with such services. The government will also enhance schemes so Singaporeans in their 50s and early 60s can bolster their savings for retirement.
When it comes to helping vulnerable groups, Singapore is shifting its approach away from social assistance to empowerment. Under a new scheme called Comlink Plus, there'll be more support for lower-income families, not just to achieve specific goals, but to also sustain that progress. And for persons with disabilities, new ways and means for them to thrive. Sherlyn Sia reports.
Can I help you today? For many lower-income Singaporeans, family service centres are a valuable resource. This one in Sengkang handles over 800 cases each year, helping families struggling with social, financial or emotional issues.
The cases that we see are generally from multi-stress families, meaning that multiple cases that they have, it's not that they come in with one issues only, but like they can come in with financial issues, but they also have other issues like child school refusal issues.
To better meet these diverse and complex needs, the government is expanding a program that assists some 14,000 lower-income families living in rental flats. The new Comlink Plus scheme will go beyond providing support to empowering beneficiaries who take active steps to uplift themselves. For example, by incentivizing them with more financial assistance.
We need to recognize and supplement the family's effort themselves in uplifting them and working towards their goals. And there are at least 3 simple goals. 1, to own a home. 2, to find stable employment, and 3, to ensure their children get the best outcome from our superb education system.
In the Forward SG public engagements, Singaporeans cited better access to education as a priority area.
To close gaps as early as possible, the government is taking bigger steps to even the playing field, zooming in on the formative years in childhood. It's stepping up efforts to raise preschool enrollment and attendance rates amongst children in lower-income families. And even as they grow older, support throughout the education journey will continue.
These families will get full childcare subsidies based on income tier. Meanwhile, selected preschools will get extra funding or manpower. Singapore will also do more for persons with disabilities.
We're developing a stronger ecosystem of support for PWD in areas of lifelong learning, employment, community living, meaning living in the community, not in institutions, and access to social activities.
From enhancing pedestrian crossings to making buildings more accessible, all sectors are being roped in to ensure that in this vision of a future Singapore, no one is left behind.
Singapore's also refreshing efforts to tackle climate change and taking more cues from Singaporeans under the Forward Singapore exercise. This includes feedback from youths who understand what addressing the threat means for their future. Lauren Ong with this report.
It's been harder to go out without an umbrella these days, and with climate change, Mother Nature could get even more unpredictable. With rising sea levels and extreme temperatures looming, Singapore is looking to better brace itself, and Samantha Thien of non-profit Seastainable has some ideas that she took to the Forward Singapore engagement.
We had a co-creation session to think about, how do we reimagine Singapore's shorelines? Of course, with rising sea levels, how do we innovate to make sure that we are also protecting our space? So I think we also talked a lot about the trade-offs between development and sustainability.
The conservation advocate says Singapore needs to do more to speed up how it fights climate change, with more conservation efforts, collaboration and commitment.
A big part of this is preparing Singapore's coastlines for these changes. Breakwaters, seawalls and stone embankments, for instance, protect the shores from strong waves and erosion and cover more than 70% of Singapore's coastline. Renewed efforts that come with the policy shifts attempt to take this a step further by asking questions like how this can serve other purposes as well.
The government says environmental sustainability is an existential priority for Singapore. And increasingly, young Singaporeans who understand this are getting hands-on about their climate future. 25-year-old sustainability consultant Wu Chi-yun is getting the word out one doodle at a time. She's breaking down complex climate issues on Instagram to more than 17,000 followers.
The aim really was to explore a lot of the climate issues that I was learning in school and tell that to a lot of other people who might not have the opportunity to really dig into environmental issues in a visual, illustrator and also a fun and joyful way to show them that, all these issues might be complex, but actually if someone takes you through them, maybe it's not so scary after all.
The government says everyone has to play a part in fortifying Singapore against the effects of climate change. Only then the country can make a significant difference, not just as a nation, but also for future generations.
With the conclusion of the Forward Singapore exercise, Deputy Prime Minister Lawrence Wong says that his team will continue its approach of engaging and listening to the concerns of Singaporeans. And he adds that the next milestone is the budget next year, when these plans could become policy. And that these recommendations are timely as the external environment becomes more uncertain, challenging and volatile.
We will be in a phase where there will be more disruptions, more impact on people's lives, more churn at workplaces, and that's why we have to do more to give people that greater sense of assurance over their basic needs. It will cost the government more. It will require a lot more resources. And so we have to design our policies and programs carefully and in a responsible manner. But we think this additional spending will be necessary.
Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong says Singapore must work hard to stay united in a turbulent and uncertain world. And the nation is renewing its social compact through the Forward Singapore exercise. At the same time, he says a stable society is built upon families.
We've seen how other countries have run into serious social problems because of the breakdown of family units. Without proper support, kids fall into bad company, and old folks get shunted aside and forgotten or neglected. And that's why the Singapore government has always supported families and family values to secure the foundation of our society.
Mr. Lee adds there will always be families in need of extra support, even as standards of living go up in general. At a charity dinner for all kin Singapore, he says such social service agencies play a key role in helping such needy communities. This also includes youths, seniors and other vulnerable groups. Formerly known as AMKFSC, the agency has rebranded itself to move away from misconceptions that it only serves the Ang Mo Kio area.
Our rebrand to All Kin Singapore brings to life our work, desired impact, and strategy more acutely. It better reflects our identity and articulate our aspiration to being an inclusive and forward-looking agency. One that not just serves the needs of the vulnerable, but also to enable them to become change makers in their own right.